So persistence unit, yeah, this is part of the JPA basics, but I forgot to present the rest of the slides. So let's talk about it. Persistent unit. Yeah, so Nikki's question just reminded me the fact that I haven't covered this guy. So what is persistent unit? So entity manager handles communication to the database through a persistence provider or persistent engine. Now, when entity manager is created either by an application for the Java SE application case or by the container for the Java E application, configuration information is needed for configuring the persistent manager. Basically we need to have what is the name of the database and who's the user ID, what is the user ID and password and all that kind of configuration information. So this is the same information that you have to have whatever, regardless of whatever the persistence scheme you're using. Even if you're using JDBC, you still have to provide this information. So this configuration data is called the persistence unit. So in JPA, this persistent unit is represented by persistence.xml file. And in fact, every JPA application has to have this persistence.xml file. And it is located on the meta inf directory. So if you see any sample application, you are going to see persistence.xml file. Okay. So if you take a look at JPA basics default data types application, this persistence.xml file is always on the resources and the meta inf directory. So this is the persistent XML file. Okay. So here you can see it has a configuration information, name of the database, and the username and password, and the client-side driver and things like that. Okay, so the information that this persistence unit, this persistent XML file contain is the name of the persistent unit. So that is this name in this case, employee service 1. And then it also specifies transaction type. So for standalone Java SE application, you're going to see resource local. For container managed application, you're going to see JTA. So JTA is for distributed resources environment, while resource local, you're dealing with a single resource, in this case a single database server. And then it specifies the persistent provider class. So this persistent provider class is the name of the persistence provider that you want to use. So you could use Hibernate, or you could use Eclipse Link, you could use the OpenJPA. So as I said before, JPA provides plugin environment where you can plug in persistence engine of your choice. Okay, and again, the best combination these days is again using JPA as a standard Java API, but persistent provider you might want to use a proven Hibernate persistence provider. Okay, and for Java SE application, you also have to specify entity classes. Okay? For Java EE application, container figures out all the entity classes by itself, but in Java SE application, you have to specify in persistence.xml file. You also specify table generation strategy. So table generation strategy is you can create, when you're running your application, you can say, I want to drop all the tables first and then recreate it. That's basically what you're using for all our sample application, like a drop and create table. That means drop all the tables and then recreate them. So that's the reason we could actually run this application over and over, right? So when I run this application, it will recreate the tables for me. Okay, so that's the reason we can run this application over and over without having any consequences. Okay, so that is a table generation strategy. So table generation strategy could be drop and recreate, or do nothing, or create if it is not there. So that kind of those are the options that you can specify in terms of table generation strategy. And then database related information. So it could be some kind of database specific configuration information. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at so this is for standalone Java SE environment. So here you specify the provider. So here we are using top link. Here you can specify the Hibernate and things like that. Okay. By the way, this is a persistent XML file in JPA 1.0. So here you specify the the driver information and database and things like that. But these property names are not standardized. Okay, in JPA 2.0, these are kind of standardized, right? But the information they have is pretty much the same. So here, persistent unit name, transaction type is resource local, and this is the persistent provider, and this is the name of the entity classes. In our case, we have a single employee entity class. If you have a multiple of those, you specify all those here, and then you specify the database configuration information. And the last one here is the database generation strategy. Again, here we say drop and create tables. Okay, so that is for application managed environment, meaning it's a Java SE environment. Java EE environment, here you are again the name of the persistent unit, in this case JSF JPA war. Transaction type is going to be JTA, because here we are dealing with distributed resources environment. And then you specify, data source object. So JDBC underscore default. So that's something I actually, showed you in the in Glassfish, right? And here you don't have to specify anything else. And then you specify data generation strategy. Okay. Here you don't specify the configuration information like username and password and database and things like that. The reason is because this data source object is already configured with those information. So system administrator must have configured this data source object with those information. Okay? Okay, so hopefully that gives you a sense of what the persistent unit is. Okay? All right, so let me just